Welcome to episode number 20 of the Forge Forward podcast. I'm your host, Phil De Cruz, and I'm joined by the amazing Cordy Smith. Say hi out there, mate.
Oh, you're so generous, my friend. Thank you. Hi, everyone.
Beautiful, beautiful. Um, we're here to dive into some game-changing insights and explore the innovations shaping the future. And I'm excited who we have today. We've got Jenny Boyle from the Proven Group. Say hi to your fans out there, mate.
Hello. Lovely to be here with you guys.
Absolute
Excellent.
pleasure having you on board.
Beautiful, mate. We can't wait. We're a couple weeks out and things are on fire. It's a race right now, and it's shaping up to be pretty good. We've got some amazing speakers on board, don't we, Courtney?
We have some incredible speakers on board, buddy. And what we're finding is that we are creating that Viking longboat lift that we've talked about by creating the swell and all of the tides that are coming behind it. So Forge is going to be a cracker, and I can't wait to get into it.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right, let us kick us off, Jenny. Before we go to the Forge event, tell me about your company, the Proven Group, and the unique value that you bring to that industry.
So thanks for having me. Really excited to be involved with Forge and the innovation and the crazy thinking that people will be experiencing. So the Proven Group is a people and full service people and culture consultancy. So we help organizations really thrive with their people and bring their people on a journey which really aligns with their strategic objective. Often the two things are two very separate things. You've got your goals and your strategy over here, and your people sit in the corner over there, and the two things don't ever quite meet up. So for us, it's really about recruiting amazing people, bringing them onto your journey, and really setting them up for success. And setting them up for success, you're setting up the organization for success. And really, for us, it's about growing a business that you really love being part of, that you love coming to each and every day, and where you see people thriving and achieving and innovating and really doing amazing things and keeping themselves motivated and engaged. And yes, businesses can be wonderful places.
Oh, they can be. And I think, it's funny. The first thing that most people think that Forge is about is the technology, the innovation, the over the horizon thinking that we're going to be bringing in. And there's going to be a bit of that, right? Which is we're there to challenge. We're there to put people in uncomfortable spots to make them comfortable as they move forward in their business. But without the people and without the setting up of that into an organisation, like that's the missing link, I think, as we move forward. Do you want to speak to that a little bit, Jen?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, a business starts, and then as it grows, you need people to be able to help you do the things that need doing. And I've always been of the opinion to hire people who are substantially better than me, and let them do their thing and work with them to grow the organization. But yeah, I mean, people are critical, and we can't have growth without people. And unfortunately, what we see out there, a lot of culture of churn. And it's, for me, it's how do we bring people in and set them up for success? And it sounds like this big kind of crazy idea. It's actually not really that hard. And it starts with really, I think it's doing the thinking. And that's something that often is missed. So we're kind of, everything is done in business kind of at the last minute, putting out some sort of fire and trying to get us out of a hole. And so, we recruit, oh my gosh, we've got to recruit because someone's left and we've got to recruit right now. And then we put up an ad and, no one sits down and actually does the planning of, okay, all right, now that this person's left, what do we actually need? And then really looking at, well, what are we going to need to set this person up for success? And then what are we going to do in order to set the team up for success? And it's kind of all of these pieces that we need to plan and look through. We often talk about this employee life cycle, and it's really about how do people grow within the organization, and how do we keep them on building their career pathway and their career journey.
Yeah.
As well as us being focused on building our organization. I was talking to a company the other day, and we were talking a lot. They were talking about one of their goals is to help as many of their team as possible get university degrees. They've got substantially a workforce that doesn't have university degrees, and they've over the years gone on a pathway to actually get nationally recognized qualifications. So, a Cert 4, a diploma, whatever it might be. But actually, and it's not about necessarily the education that they're going to, it is partially, but it's the process, it's the thinking, it's the talking, it's the learning, it's the who they're going to associate with. It's also the confidence that, for some of these people, they're the first person in their family, a long line of family members who have a university education. And so it's going to be, might not be a goal for everyone, but I think there are a lot of organizations who not only are looking at people as how are you going to help me achieve my goals, which of course is part of it. And we've got the business strategy that we discussed and is bringing the whole organization on the journey. But how are we going to help these people meet their individual goals, their career goals, their personal goals? What are these goals, and how are we going to work with them to really help them achieve these goals? And I think it's kind of almost it's almost the structure. You need the structure, and you need the compliance, and you need the documentation, you need all of that, but it's really actually coming down to the basics of your philosophy towards business and people, and really looking at developing relationships and really knowing people and everyone knowing each other and knowing strengths and weaknesses, and really having that culture where individual achievement and differences are celebrated, not in a real way, in a way that's really about, if we're going to have a team, we need diversity. We need diversity of thinking. We're going to annoy the daylights out of each other, because, you do. When you've got a lot of diversity and you've got a lot of difference in a team, often you do annoy each other, and it's like, oh, can't they do it like me? But if they did it like you, then you wouldn't get to where you are. You need them to do it like them. You need them to ask questions that you wouldn't ask. I think, often in teams you have like that conflict between, someone who's very risk averse and someone who's a major risk taker. Someone who is very detailed, someone who's very big picture. And like they annoy each other a lot, but it's actually us all understanding each other's value that we bring to the table, and how together we actually make up a whole. Individually, we actually don't. So people are just so critical.
Yeah, and look, it's funny. I do a bit of reading and a bit of research on these subject matters, and one of the things that's a common conversation at the moment is that words like AI and ML and EV and all these acronyms can scare the bejesus out of people, but the future worker that we want to present to be the better workers are the ones with diverse skills, soft skills, communication skills. What would be the non-technical skills that typically have been hired for in the past may change a lot into the future. On that note, what's the single biggest thing your customers are coming to Proven Group to try and help with? Like, if you could name maybe two, let's keep it at two, and then we can keep the questions rolling.
Yeah. Look, I think people are tired of putting out fires. So they're constantly, putting out HR fires, like putting out a fire here and that kind of settles, and then they're putting out the next fire. And it's really a lack of that proactive approach. They're kind of in this kind of tunnel of doom.
Yeah, cycle of consistency, poor consistency.
That's the word. That hamster wheel where they're so busy that all they can get to is the extremely urgent quadrant, on fire quadrant. And it's really actually slowing that down and being the proactive, and also perspective. When you're in a situation, it's hard to have the perspective to actually take the emotions out of it and work out, well, what is the best outcome for the organization? So it might be you know, you might have a personality clash, or the person may have annoyed you to the nth degree, but what is actually best for the business? And so we often actually, you know, say that we put on a hat, the voice of the business, and actually what's going to get the best outcome for the business. I think the other part is, I think people are really nervous. You know, there's a lot of talk out there in the media and so forth about all these changes with employment legislation and all these things that have come about. And I think people are nervous. Like, they don't know what's changed, what hasn't changed. Can I say this? Can I do that? They just don't know. So I think
They
for
need a
us,
guide. Yeah.
yeah, like having someone who just has their back, who, you know, we call it a phone a friend, who they know has their back, who understands their business, understands their values, their culture, you know, how they roll, and can help them with these nuances of how do you get around these situations, becomes really, really critical. I think also the other thing is leadership. I think there's a real recognition that, you know, leadership, like, some people are born leaders and they have those skills naturally, but for the majority of people, they don't know how to lead. They don't just wake up one day knowing how to do it, number one. And number two is, most organizations don't have an approach to leadership. So that we find is really, really powerful. You know, when the organization chooses, this is how we are going to, as an organization, approach leadership, and these are the tools we're going to use, and this is the way we're going to do it, and everyone's kind of consistently doing it across the organization, makes just such a massive, powerful impact.
Yes. No, very, very good points, and I can see why organizations would chase those in coming to the Proven Group.
Yeah, absolutely. I see Proven Group as the sheepdog, and your clients are the sheep, and you're really just herding them to the right direction of how to do business.
There you go.
There's a new model.
You take me back to Acme cartoons and the sheepdog with a big fluffy head, Phil.
Yep.
Sorry, mate. On Monday, push back to Acme.
I've got two questions for you, Jenny. One is, how does the Proven Group stay ahead of industry trends, and what role does partnership play in the success of the Proven Group?
Oh, partnership.
Could I add, Jenny? Could I add to that and to be honest, with HR the way it's going, one of the pieces, just in your thinking, I'd love to hear your feedback, is that AI is actually coming into the HR process. So I'd love to just get a feel for what you see, whether you see it's real, bullshit. Oh, I swore then. So that started the program. But you get my point. Like, let's keep it.
Oh, totally. Yeah. So it's really interesting. So there's a lot of amazing, amazing kind of research and content, and, you know, around, HR and AI, and, you know, there's so much. I think purely, there's kind of, we're impacted from two sides, I think, in HR. So one, we're impacted HR function, and then we're also impacted by the impact of AI on workplaces and the changing nature of workplaces. So there's kind of that twofold piece. I am very much of the opinion that if you can automate, use AI to help you do things better, faster, easier, all of those things, more efficiently, you know, without mistakes, you know, all of those things. Then I'm in, and I think it's, you know, it's a real opportunity for improvement. I think it's about testing. It's about, you know, working out where, and this is where, you know, always the challenge. Like, we're people, and we need human interaction, and we need to build relationships with each other, and we need all of that. So sometimes it's a matter of going, okay, where is that human interaction actually of value, and where can it be automated and it really doesn't bring value? You know, for example, using the amazing connection, your other hat, as an example, you're bringing on an employee, and you have the ability to automate the onboarding process. Not whole onboarding process, of course, but much of the onboarding process. All of the boring stuff, let's call it, like the collecting the documentation, getting sign-offs, you know, all of this piece, that piece. Is there actually value in someone sitting there sending an email with 23 attachments, sending it through, and then trying to work out what have they not signed, it's collating all of these files in a folder and blah, 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 and the list goes on. Like, is there actually value in that? No, like, to me, there's no value in that. Like, there's no value to the organization, not to the new employee, not to the organization, not to the manager. Like, there's not any value to anyone. So delivering that in a automated, I'm going to use automation and AI a little bit.
They're interconnected, so 100%.
Yeah. Automating that, to me, makes a huge amount of sense.
Yeah.
We know that people are on the whole inconsistent. We know that for whatever reason, whether it's good, bad, or ugly, people come and go from organizations, whether it's, a lovely going to have a baby, or someone unfortunately dies, or they leave the organization, whatever it might be. So being able to, in looking at these critical areas where there's kind of, I call it paper shuffling, where there's paper shuffling that goes on, which actually isn't adding value to anyone. Can we automate that stuff so that it can happen? We know it's happened exactly the same time. And it also gives that impression of our organization as well. We're organized, we're on top of things. People want to know that they're working with organizations that are looking into the future and trialing different things as well. So I think there's a lot of different reasons why it's positive to include automation and AI in the HR process. Now, it's, there's still a huge role for building relationships and leadership and mentoring and we're really strong advocates for, onboarding goes from before you've even started to, that probation mark, and really doing really value-driven check-ins and really looking at what's working, what's not for the person, and mentoring and supporting them and driving things forward. You can't, that AI is not for that. Like, it's not, it's about that developing that relationship. So to me, there are places where it's great. There are interviewing. There are a lot of people are using AI.
I was going to say, top of funnel for HR looks like this. In sales, it looks like this. In you know what I mean? Like,
correct.
So you've got all of these people. Do you? What part do you automate? When do you automate?
Completely.
Big job to do candidacy assessment. Massive amounts of work, particularly if you're hiring, like you said, the right person, looking for a specific set of skills attributes, critical thinking.
Totally. And this is where, I don't know. I just think there's so much time. I think it's all about putting the time into where it counts. And that's the planning, the thinking, the collaborating in the team to actually be thinking about, what do we need? What are we, doing a rearrange things, or are we hiring exactly a replacement for that exact position? Or how are we dealing with this? So to me, you spend the time on the thinking side, and then on the paper shuffling side that doesn't add value to anyone, you don't. I would much rather be handed by a computer program a list of shortlisted applicants who it already knows that those people, based on criteria that we've developed, it already knows the likelihood of someone being a good fit. And this is where this thinking comes in, different psychometric tools and planning. We find there are certain roles that you need certain strengths, behavioral styles, and so forth to really to be a natural fit. So there are a lot of roles in engineering, for example, where you need a really detailed person. If you don't have a detailed person, they can mask and they can do all sorts of things, but ultimately they're not really performing at their best either, because it's challenging for them. And so in those sorts of, there are a lot of things that you can do in the screening process that actually can help you go, okay, is this person's natural behavior style based on how they run? Now, did they get someone else to write it for them? Or we don't know any of that stuff, but let's not worry about that for the moment. Do you know what I mean? The words they're using, the different aspects. How is it? how do they naturally fit? And so there's just so much sophistication now to how you can go about this. Now, some of it there's value and some of it there's not, and some of it's going to be valuable for you and not for me. It's going to be different for different people. But I certainly think that the tools are valuable. Where I think that it creates a slight challenge is that you've got these AI tools that are very, very specialized for some very tiny little function. And organizations are struggling with, we've got 700 different technology tools that we use, and they're really struggling with that. And so sometimes when the things don't talk and they don't integrate and they can't collaborate and partner with each other, it makes it really difficult and not user friendly. And sometimes it almost is like counterintuitive to use the tool. So it's all of the pieces that need to be looked at.
We call it the spaghetti jungle of systems because in some instances, paper can be more efficient if you run in a single paper solution as opposed to 20 or 30 apps that have been chosen by business leaders or business unit managers, whatever. What's really interesting in that, though, is, and a lot of people probably don't recognise this in the audience, is that with AI, we're going to see a plethora of single focus solutions that are for super ultra niche outcomes. And so therefore, when you bang those together, you're talking not 10 systems, you could be talking 20, 30, 40 systems now in your business doing unique things. And so that challenge that I think you've identified there is, where is information? Where is it's contained? How do you transfer information between different parts of your business? How do you do that in a safe and secure way? So all of these things become really important subject matter in conversation, and the challenges that organisations will have moving forward.
And I think also the other part of it is the change management side of it.
Huge.
People on the whole, not everyone, but a lot of people don't like change. And so, when we're talking about psychosocial hazards in the workplace and the stresses and the factors that actually cause a lot of stress to individuals, it's change, and it doesn't have to be huge change. So, sometimes when you're doing a huge system implementation, everyone knows that you're doing a system implementation. Yes, it's stressful, but it's like we're all on the boat together. But when you do little, Phil, you've been using that system. Oh, no, we haven't used that system for 2 years. We're using this system now. We're doing it like this. We don't press that button. We press that button. It's those little things that people actually find really, really stressful. And it's kind of like, oh, well, thanks for involving me, sharing with me, the whole communication piece that sits around it. But I think the other part around AI is the fear, which is very real and very out there. So am I going to be replaced? And now lots of people know that whatever they're in their role, they can't be replaced because of whatever, they're doing, they're I was going to say a surgeon, but I think they're probably, closer to being replaced than quite a few others. But, there are a lot of people who are doing very strategic thinking that, would be challenging to develop AI to do. But when you've got people who are doing very kind of same, the question is, will I be replaced? And even if we think about what we all do each and every day, there's a lot of stuff that can be automated, and a lot more than what we're automating at the moment. Awesome. And really the question is, what's going to happen to my position?
Where do I fit in this world? And I think that's the biggest single question at the moment. Is there's two things. Number one is that the actual technology is moving so fast that it's very hard to keep up with. The likelihood of pace of change in going in a direction other than exponential is probably not likely. So therefore, it's only going to get harder and faster. And so therefore that concept of where do I fit becomes a huge question for many, many people. And I think that's the obligation and responsibility of leaders and business owners to start to identify what today looks like. What does 2 years out look like? And that could be a stretch, actually, to be honest. That's how fast it's moving. What does 2 years look like? And what does 5 years look like in our business? Had a funny chat with someone today about that same thing. And we talked about, could a blue collar industry actually get disrupted by AI? And I'm like, oh, hold up a sec. Like, you're right. We're digging holes in the ground, and that's a part of the task, right? But who's doing the tendering? How much does a person that does tendering cost you? You know, how much does someone doing estimating cost you? Like, these are jobs that are what I would call clinical jobs, and clinical jobs are really well managed by, unfortunately, LLMs. So, you know, do you want an estimator spending 40 hours a week in the office doing quotes and proposals, or do you want him out there with your customers because he's got an infinite knowledge skill about what the business does and how they do it, talking to customers and adding value to customers? Like, so that's thinking and totally. Right? And so many questions to come out of these conversations, which is why we've balanced the techos in the conference with the human aspects of the conference intentionally. Intentionally. I want this to be debatable. I want people to ask hard questions and go, no, it will never happen to me. And I'm like, okay, well, let's test that.
Well, it's interesting because I think when, you know, automation and robotics, let's kind of call it from that, came into play, the fear really was in the manufacturing sector. So the manufacturing sector were petrified around were all of these jobs going to be lost overnight. And I mean, of course some have, and the sector's changed. However, really, the cost of that technology is huge.
Yeah.
And even though there is innovation that's happened, it hasn't really had that kind of impact in that kind of way in a lot of sectors. However, the industry that thought that they were kind of untouchable was actually the creative space. And that has been really impacted.
Yeah, look, you're 100% correct. And I think it opened up the door to that we've got to be very careful in our assumptions.
Yes.
We've got to be very, very careful in our assumptions from here.
Oh, totally.
And you know, we've seen a 125-ton rocket ship land back on a set of chopsticks in the last week. Yeah, so these are things that were deemed to be impossible.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So if impossible becomes possible, then it's really those people with adaptive minds, creative minds, flexible mindset, abundance thinking, certainly human oriented, that are going to be the ones that will stand out in the future and will hold themselves in good stead. It's a challenge. It must freak out organisations that are human centric, because you might actually need to be able to work out how you manage AIs in the future, because they're telling the wrong stories to the customers. You might need to think about that in your design there, Jenny.
Yeah. So
imagine coming up with human-centered design principles for AI like that.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how it evolves over time. That's for sure. But I mean, ultimately, you know, I don't know about your business, but you know, we've got endless things to do, which we don't have time to do.
Yep.
And everyone's got a much huger list, a to-do list than there are minutes in the day. And so really it's thinking about where do the humans add huge value. And Phil, back to your question about partnerships, you know, for us, it's really kind of staying on top of what's going on, what are the conversations, looking at industry trends, looking at research, you know, for us that, you know, that is really, really critical, staying on top of that all the time. But with partnerships, that's where it also comes into play. You know, you've got partners where you've got a specialty in one area, they've got a specialty in other areas. You're always learning from one another and always developing. You know, we find that most clients need multiple services. They don't just need one service. And so it's actually how do you add value to clients by introducing them to really quality partners? How do you collaborate and make 1 + 1 = 100 with amazing companies who your values aligned with? So it, you know, to us, partnership is at the core.
Wow.
I love it. Did you want to add to that, Phil? Because I know we were in the background looking at which questions to ask Jenny next, and one of them was about collaboration. So let's lean into that. And let's close on that. I think it's really important.
Yeah, no, that was perfect and well said, Jenny, about the collaboration. You can't get one person to do everything. You need a tool, a number of tools in your toolkit to provide to your customer to get the result they want. And we're happy to be one of those tools in your toolkit, Jenny. So,
No, look, collaboration in a marketplace that's changing rapidly is the only way you'll stay abreast and assist your clients. You can't be all things to all people, but you can add value on a lot of fronts by introducing quality people into the conversation. So, at Forge, we've got some incredible people like Jenny coming along to add flavour to a very wide conversation that is all about what is the future of work and what does the future of technology look like. So on that note, to close, if you had one suggestion for an organisation watching today or someone thinking about attending Forge, one piece of advice in this rapidly changing, innovative landscape, what would it be?
I think it's the people you surround yourself with. So I think, you're coming into a space to surround yourself with highly motivated, outside the square thinkers who don't have the "this is how we've always done it before" kind of philosophy. Really, really open to how do we do it better. And really, I think it comes back to that client-centric focus as well. So, that thinking is all about how do we deliver better to clients, and how do we deliver better to clients through collaboration and through working in different ways. Just because the industry is doing it like this, do we have to do it like this? So it's challenging the status quo and challenging what you're doing. And really, I think cross-industry collaboration, where you hear about people with a similar mindset who are doing things in a really different way, really, really gives you the ability to, to really stay ahead of the crowd. And to me, it's all about that client-centric philosophy. So I think,
and I laugh often because we've met each other through different networks, Jenny. And one of the things I laugh at the most is the concept that transactional thinking will net you short-term gain. The truth is, it doesn't net you short-term, medium-term, or long-term gain. So this concept of abundant thinking, not always looking to take $1 off every transaction, looking to add value, increase outcomes for your clients and the people around you, will ultimately lead to medium to longer term outcomes, and sometimes short-term outcomes, which can be that lovely piece of icing on the cake. So on that note, shall we say goodbye to the lovely Jenny, because we've hit that mark, and look forward to seeing you on one of the panels, Jenny, so we can educate all of those wonderful people at Forge about
thank you. Thanks
for having
me.
How to be better with people.
Thanks so much. Forge, and looking forward to seeing everyone there.
See you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.